Right. The next component of human resource management is on-job analysis. So now we have identified in terms of how many new number of employees that we need, and we already identified in terms of where can we get the supply of this potential candidate. So the next one is for us to design our job analysis. Job analysis is a systematic procedure for studying jobs to determine the various elements and requirements. In example, for a position for a clerk, each position may differ from one clerk to another. Outcomes of job analysis are job descriptions, which you need to identify in terms of the tasks, duties, and responsibilities. It is a list of elements that make up a particular jobs, including duties to be performed, the working conditions, responsibility, pada siapa that we are going to report to in terms of the job conditions, whether or not you need to work over the weekend, the working hours, and then what are your responsibilities, you need to do what. So those are the elements that we can see from the job description. So basically, the job description describes a particular job. So when we read through the job description, we can have a visualization on the things that you are going to be doing in the future. And then the job specification is the details, qualification required in order for you to perform that particular job. For example, maybe you need to have a degree, or maybe you need to have a qualification, a certain qualification. And if you want to become an engineer, you must have qualifications in engineering field. For example, if you want to be a designer, house designer, for example, you must have a qualification in terms of architectural design. So those are the qualifications lah. And we can identify, we can see this, we can observe this when we look at the job advertisement in the newspaper or through online. So we can simply identify which one is the job description and which one is the job specification. And these elements are being used for recruiting, selecting, evaluation, as well as compensation decisions. So the next one is the recruiting part, is the process of attracting qualified job applicants. Like I said earlier on, it is the process of attracting. And kita nak invite, welcome as many potential candidates as possible. The more pool of qualified applicants that you can manage to obtain, the better that you are going to identify the best potential candidate to fill up for that particular position. Like I said earlier on, they have two sources, whether external or internal. Dia punya perbezaan sangat senang. External meaning that you recruit from outside of your company. Internal, you conduct the recruitment from existing employees within your organization. Advantages, if you are using the external, you can bring in new perspective with different background. But the disadvantages, sometimes it is very expensive. And then sometimes this may provoke resentment among present employees lah. And of course, kita akan rasa macam terkesan jugalah bila tengok ada opening dekat kita punya company, tiba-tiba company kita decide untuk ambil yang higher position ni, someone from outside of the organization. And for all this while, we have been working so hard. We have been willing to come over the weekends, work at night, still long hours and everything, so that we have the intention, if they want to promote someone, let it be us. But when they select someone from outside of the organization, this might provoke resentment, rasa tak puas hati among our present employees. For internal recruiting, and of course, this will provide strong motivation among the current employees and helps firms to retain employees. And however, this will leave another position to be filled and need to train them both and also incur costs. For example, this is the position that needs to be fulfilled. When you push someone from below, from within the organizations to fill up the rank, you still need to fill up the lower level position, and now you need to focus on training for both positions. So organization needs to decide which one is the best approach to recruit. In this slide, they have another more advantages and disadvantages. Selection is the process of selecting, deciding in terms of what criteria that we are going to use in order to select our potential applicants. Of course, the basic one is the potential applications. And then sometimes we are going to use employment tests, aptitude tests, abilities, knowledge relevant to the jobs. And then interviews is the final decision on the selection techniques. And then sometimes we do reference checking. And then assessment centers are being used to select current employees to be promoted to the higher level position. So these are some of the selection methods that usually will be conducted by the organization. So once you have selected your employees, then you need to go through the orientation. This is the process of acquainting new employee with an organization to make them familiarized. And they are a new staff, they just are reported duty in your organization. So you need to allow an ample time for them to be familiarized. That is the process of acquainting new employee with an organization. The topics would cover the range from the location of company criteria to the surau, to the career path, to all the respective managers, to the departments. And sometimes it can be very brief, one day punya tour, and informal, and sometimes it can be a formal and a long process. Formal process, contohnya, they give you a pecah belon punya form in which you need to go and meet up with each of the respective managers and then get their signatures and to be submitted to the administration. Okay, the next part, we talk about maintaining. And so kita dah selesai in terms of acquiring of applicants ataupun acquiring of human resource management. So the next part, we are going to discuss the components relating to the maintaining of employees lah. So the first part, we talk about employee relations. So I'm not going to dwell into this area, but employee relation is one of the important elements dalam HR. Because employee relations is the process of managing the relationships between employer and employee. Why you need to manage this? Because our resources are limited. We cannot simply give away everything or demands of the employees. And at the same time, the employers also expect the employees to perform. So in order for us to get this mutual understanding, that I can give you this much, and the employee also saying that we can offer you services or we can work for you for this much. So we need to identify this equilibrium between employer and employee. We do not want to create a situation in which the employer expect the employee to work too much with a minimum pay, which will not be fair to them. And employee also, on the other part, you cannot demand too much and expect the employer to provide you with a high salaries with a minimum effort that you are going to present or deliver to the organization. So basically, that's pretty much about the employer-employee relationships. And then it is being governed by some of the acts in Malaysian contextual environment. For example, like Trade Union Act as well as Industrial Relation Acts. But this topic, these elements, you are going to discuss about this later on as you go along in semester 2 or semester 3 dalam masa in the future lah, insyaAllah. So these are some of the issues being discussed in the labor management relations. For example, wages, work hours, work rules, seniority, hiring, grievances, and other conditions of employment. And then we go into compensation, rewarding. Organization must reward employees for their good work, for helping to achieve organizational goals and mission. And then usually when we think about reward, we think about money. But sometimes non-monetary rewards are also the elements that organization or employees are looking for. For example, I have a couple of my friends who have decided to work for a particular company because of the medical plan that is being offered by that company, not because of the salary, but because of the medical compensation plan that is being offered by the organization, not only to the employee but also to the family members. So maybe that could be in terms of the reward that has been seeking by the employees. For direct compensation, kita ada base pay and incentive in terms of bonuses, commission, profit sharing plans, and then stock options. And then we also have indirect compensation such as benefits and rewards, non-monetary rewards. For example, retirement, pension plan, and then voluntary security, time off, insurance and financial, as well as social and recreational. Some organizations diorang offer macam nursery untuk anak-anak, so that could be an important factor. And then now we go into the development part of the human resource components. Dalam one of the elements we talk about training and development. This is quite important. In improving employee skills and abilities, employee training, process of teaching operations and technical employees on how to do jobs effectively and efficiently. It is part of the organization responsibility, and that's why sometimes in large organizations they even have a respective training department within their human resource department in order to train their employees. They have their own in-house training center, contohnya macam MAS, Asia, and they have their own in-house training center. And then management development, process of preparing managers for other professionals to assume increased responsibility in both present and future position, meaning to say that there are two types of training. Ada training yang kita conduct dalam organizations to improve the efficiency of the employees, but also there are another type of training which is on managerial training. These are among designed for selected employees that have the potential to become future managers or leaders in the organization. So they need to go to a different sets of training. We will try to finish off with this training first before we continue with the next, before we conclude this particular chapter. And then training method, there are several training methods: on-the-job training, simulation, classroom teaching and lectures, conference and seminar, role playing. So there are, I believe that each and every one of us have gone through some of these training methods before. Contohnya on-the-job training, realistic job review, kita bagi hands-on supaya dia lebih mudah nak faham. And then sometimes we do simulation and we put them in simulation, real life punya situations, and then let them handle the case or the analysis, and even role playing lah. And finally, before we end this particular section, this video, evaluation of training and development, kita develop set of verifiable objective that specify what is expected and how the results are to be measured. So make the results known to all those involved in the program, including trainees and upper management. So I will end this video first here, and we will continue with the remaining of the chapter.